us. Man, our house in Rosewood, 2 plush.
It's cool, man. Got red bottoms on. Life is good. You know what I mean?
What you mean?
For the cheapest ring on I done put one out to Spain to be in my domain automotive. Drop $3 on the rain, cause it's been the truck. Look. I was in the South Circle, the name been the same thing. Granted, she was at the right there. I went to kitchen window.
Good morning, students. I hope everyone can hear me. I have a very once again, please refrain from chatting once we begin. Staff is monitoring the chat box. Any inappropriate comments, statements, you will be removed and referred to your school administration.
It's a game, it's a game. Yeah, got my wristlet, got my rich, yeah. I'm a big count, yeah. I talk big, yeah, we got sticks, yeah, we don't miss, yeah, rich on frostbite, what a man look like headlights, it's the boss life, yeah. My exclusive bitch, she bougie, yeah. Real life a movie, whole lot of goofies, yeah. I got a movie clip, and it's a Uzi, yeah. So they like to talk a lot, yeah, but we like the music, yeah. Pull up and shoot, yeah. I like the roofers, yeah. Chop out the roof, yeah. But that you cute, bad, yeah. My time, sunlight Tony, my time. Whole lot of drugs and bananas. I don't for no rappers. I got love for my choppers, yeah. Reaching for my chain, see I know blood, they gon' whack them, yeah. New spot like the Falcons. New drop, they the fast one. Get some top in the action. 1.5 in cash, bro. Y'all fly. They like, he's so handsome. I might slide through in that road, boy, stand on. I keep big. Yeah, got my wristlet. Got my wrist, yeah. I'm a big count, yeah. I talk big. Yeah, we got sticks. Yeah. We don't miss, yeah, rich on frostbite, but a man look like headlights, it's the boss life, yeah, my exclusive bitch, she bougie, yeah, real life a movie, all of that goofies,
Back with the rings, these boys all my sons like Phoenix. My city and state never ever seen this. Give me new time, I'm a young boy genius. I'm a full time, I'ma give it that period. When it's done, I'ma fill up a greens. Ooh, like deal with the rain and shoot my shot. I'm still with the demons. Ooh, I keep it thorough. I got 5 chicks in New York, that means one in each borough. I'm in the pocket like Burrow. When I'm back home, know they treat me like Robert De Niro. Too good to talk about butter. Took her home, gave her a cinnamon swirl. I left it in, now I got on €1. Zeros on zeros on zeros. That's what my bank account say. I got a check from Shanti, I do anything in New Balance say. I bought her a plane to get out of state. I got me the shorty from Runaway. Said I'm in town.
Good morning, everyone.
I got a hit, she been playing that shit. When she pull up on me, I know what she about to say. What's poppin'? Brand new whip, just hopped in. I got options. I can pass that like stocking. Just joshing. I'm spending this holiday locked in. My body got rid of them toxins. Sports to the top 10. Calling my back, tell me that. Feel good, $6. And I just flew back from LA on the J. Yesterday I go back and forth like I play tennis. I put with you, yeah, I feel for a skill on the billboard, the #1 song in UK. And now they got the rich, all these people. I said, don't give a fuck what you say. She eat like a Batman, eat with it like a Batman. I just put up in the Batmobile. The reason I go with the rap, cause they cap, and they rap every week. Believe me, you wanna keep your life and take it easy. I'm rocking water down, but niggas squeeze. Water down, they drinking Fiji. My whip is orange and brown like I'm in Cleveland. My bitch is mellow yellow like a soda. See, how to tell us I'm a soul. Hey, somebody tell us that it's so, you know it's baby. What's poppin'? Brand new whip, just hopped in. I got options. I can pass that shit like stocking. Scattered, I caught her. I'm out here with somebody's daughter. She calling me daddy. I'm somebody's father. I gotta go kiss it. When I go kiss it, I put my lips on it like somebody wanted a diamond negation. It caught in the wallet. She put on the way, but nobody caught it. She told me that she wasn't feeling my music. She told me it's nobody harder. And I'm with the G-ski. I need that shit for the free ski. We are not buying no booty. You sell it on B Street. It's so much work on my celly. I had to go tell her my bitches email it to reach me. All in my DM, I follow your DM. She played with the Koski. We used to fuck on the low ski. She used to lie on my bed and go lie in your face. Say I'm just a broski, you knows me. You ain't believe it, you wanted to toast me. I had it steady as long as a ruler in case she was cooling and wanna approach me. Dropped it and take it, came back in the color and she wanna fuck again. I wanna tell her, get stuck, so weird that she come off of a lung and get 5 stars. Just they on the run, they get running in diamonds, they illuminating the way that I come again. I just put so many pennies on the watch and I don't never got stunned again. Look, what's poppin'? Brand new whip, just hopped in. I got options, I can pass that like stocking. Just joshing. I'm spending this holiday lobby. My body got rich.
You keep it low, I'll keep it
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Please join me in welcoming your Superintendent and CEO of Schools, Dr. Morcease J. Beasley.
Thank you, Sherry Ann. Thank you all. Thank you for this opportunity. I am so excited to see so many of our students, families, parents, and all participating in this wonderful event. I'd like to acknowledge to all of our panelists today. I won't call you by name because I know you'll all be introduced, but thank you for making time for Clayton County Public Schools. Thank you for understanding that we are a group of individuals in our school system that really want the best for our children. And for you to take out time on such short notice to come and partner with us to ensure that our students have this opportunity to hear dialogue and to basically receive information that they can use to ensure that they're in a good place mentally, we are most appreciative. I want to commend Dr. Simpson. I want to commend Dr. Nunez, Sherry Ann for making this a reality. I want to acknowledge our board members who are on the call, I'm sure. Mr. Straker, who basically sent an email and got things rolling that says, can't we do some type of event or forum? And then, of course, all the other board members weighed in. So they'll be here as well if they're not already here. Our board chair, Ms. Goree, thank you all for just making time for this most important forum right here in Clayton County Public Schools. I don't want to delay because we've got a lot of content that we need to get to, but I just want to say, students, thank you all for being here. And I hope that all of you will hear with your hearts that we love all of you, we're concerned about all of you, and we want you to be well. I do know that we're in the middle of a pandemic. Families are being impacted in such profound ways. I even read a report about the number of drug overdoses from April of 2020 until April of 2021 being over 100,000, the first time that's ever happened in our country. So we do know that in the middle of mixed indicators, you know, the economy is improving, but inflation is in high, unemployment is improving, but other issues are occurring. Families are working more, but we still know that there's food insecurity. We do know that vaccination rates are improving, but people are still getting ill. We do know there's a lot going on, but I just want to encourage all of our students and the adults on the forum as well participating, that life Life is not going to be a bed of roses. We know this, but I want all of us to have some resilient strategies. Think about all the good things that you have been given, that you will have. Think about all the positive impact that you will have in your life. I want you to choose to be resilient, choose to live. I want you to choose to make it through those rough patches in life. We all have them. Every single human being, we all have those rough moments. But I want you to gird up your minds and be strengthened in your minds and know that there's no weapon formed against you shall prosper. I want you to always know that greater is he that is in you. I want you to always know that you are victorious. You have the victory. You can come out on top. You will come out on top. So I just want all of you young people to put on that resilient mindset and just know you're in a community here in Clayton County. You're in a community that loves you, that values you, and that wants to hear from you. Talk to us. Let us know what's going on in your life. How are you feeling? Find an adult right here in our community, in your family, or at the school, a counselor, a social worker, a psychologist, a principal, a teacher. All of us, we care for you. And if nothing else, if you don't hear anything else today, I hope you hear that message loud and clear, that every adult on this call, on this forum, participating, whether a panelist, an employee, a staff member, or a family member, I hope you hear from my heart today that we love you and we care for you. And we want you to always know that, and always know that you can come to us about anything. So thank you, Sherry Ann, for this opportunity. I look forward to hearing everything that the panelists will share on today. And I look forward to our students sharing the impact that this is having on their lives. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Beasley, for those words. We appreciate you so much, and we appreciate your passion for our students. And that's kind of why we're here today. So my name is Kim Blackwood. I'm a training specialist in professional learning. I am super passionate about SEL. You guys hopefully have been using the Rethink Ed platform every day to start with an SEL moment. And that's what we're going to do today. It's a beautiful, beautiful day, a little chilly. Hope you're all staying warm. But I want you to think just for a moment, looking ahead to our upcoming holiday week. I want you to identify one thing you're really looking forward to. It may be as simple as, oh, I get to sleep a little later in the mornings, or I'm going to see somebody I haven't seen in a long time. Anything simple or wonderful that you're looking forward to. And if you'd like to share, I guess the only ones that can share maybe are the student panelists. Please share if you feel comfortable saying one thing that you are looking forward to.
Well, I'm looking forward to family time. Our student panelists are having a little bit of technical difficulty right now, but I can see their chat, and they're looking forward to family time and time away from us. Okay, so I'll accept that. Some people are looking forward to traveling and eating a lot and resting. So those are some of the remarks from our student leaders. Thank you, Ms. Blackwood, for the opportunity of debriefing and looking forward to something and having time for gratitude.
Thank you.
Ms.
I just want
Blackwood?
Yes.
I saw a question. Someone wanted to know, how old is Dr. Beasley? I want them to know that Dr. Beasley is 51 years old, and I'll be 52 on this Monday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Well, you gave us this week off because it's your birthday.
No, the board gave you the week off.
Okay. Okay, so I just want to remind everybody in order to get your participation grade, you're going to have to stay for the entire presentation. There will be a QR code put up at the end that you'll need to log in your name and the class that you want to have the participation grade count in. And without further ado, now that we've kicked things off, I would like to introduce our dynamic Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Ralph Simpson.
Thank you, Ms. Blackwood, and I'm going to be brief. Part of my responsibility this morning is to share with you or introduce to you our panelists and our keynote speaker or presenter. She shouldn't be a stranger to anyone, but I just want to reemphasize just one point Dr. Beasley made. Listen, this is about you today. If we've never stopped to pause to make this about you, then we're doing so today. And here's the great news about it. This is not going to be the only day. So you need to push on us. Make sure you push on us, your teachers who will push on your principals, and your principals will push on us to say, hey, we need to stop and pause again. It's time, we need a pause break. So today, consider this the pause break. We're stopping, pausing, making it about you. But know this, it's about you every day. It is about you every day. But today, we're taking time, setting aside to make sure that it's about you. We're extending ourselves, that olive branch. We're extending our hands so that we can pull you up. That is why we're here. Without you and without being able to do that work, then none of this will be meaningful and purposeful. So let me very quickly introduce to you some panelists and experts, I should say, that's going to be with us this morning. And I'm going to start out with Dr. Vaughn. Dr. Vaughn is beyond what anyone would consider an expert in this particular field, a renowned mental health practitioner that's provided work in psychological services and the mental health advocacy and education, serving underserved communities. Next, we'll have Miss Anna Reyes, who's a neuropsychology intern at Emory School of Medicine, a doctoral student at San Diego State University. Her work and research has been studying the impact of epilepsy on cognition and behavior. And then our feature is someone whom I've known a good bit of my life, blessed and fortunate to know her family, and truly I've recognized the work that she has done, not only in metropolitan Atlanta, but throughout the country and beyond. A phenomenal person, individual who has committed and dedicated her life work to children and mental health awareness and depression. And she is going to come and share with us. Listen, she's known as the auntie. So just consider this your auntie this morning having a conversation with you. And so without further ado, I just want to recognize and introduce to you my homegirl, the expert, the professional, the wonderful Miss Shanti Doss.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you so much, Dr. Simpson, for that introduction. Thank you, Dr. Beasley. Happy birthday. Thank you, Ms. Blackwood. And just shout out to all the students that are on here this morning from Clayton County. I bring you greetings from ATL. I originally grew up in the SWATs. So yes, I am familiar with the A-Town scene. Went to Mays High School, but shout out to North Clayton, Riverdale, Morrow, all the great schools that are represented today. I hope you all take this time. I know, we be on social media and we, be messing around and talking to our friends, but really try to hone in on what we're saying today and kind of take it to heart. Because I'm getting ready. Auntie Shanti gonna tell y'all like it is, and I'm gonna really introduce you to, my life and my career and kind of like what caused me to really be in this space to silence the shame. So I'm gonna put my timer on. I'm gonna talk for 10 minutes and then I'll bring our panelists in. But I got my start after I graduated from Mays High School. I went to Syracuse University and I majored in television, radio, and film. And I thought I wanted to work in the music business because, Atlanta was really popping. I know I'm showing my age, but in the late 80s and early 90s with the music community. And so after I graduated from Syracuse, I came back home and got my start working with groups like Outkast. A lot of y'all moms and aunties and uncles may know Outkast and TLC and Usher. And I had a really great career, y'all. I got to live out my dream, as they say. I was # living my best life. But what I didn't share with y'all is that just when I was 7 months old, my father took his own life, meaning he died by suicide. And that was really tough on our family. My mom was left to raise 3 young kids, and we didn't talk about it. You hear some of our celebrities and people in the community now talking about mental health and that sort of thing, and anxiety and depression, but it was just something we didn't do, years and years ago. And so fast forward, I had this really awesome career in the music business, but when things got tough for me, I didn't know how to handle my problems. You're going to hear a lot about a word cope today, COPE, right? And it means how you kind of process through and navigate through some of the feelings and thoughts that you're having that are confusing to you. And so things got to be really stressful for me at work. And I ended up just walking away from a really big career. I did music for like 20 years working with, I got to market for Prince, and I mentioned Usher and Outkast, and go to the Grammy Awards and the BET Awards and travel all around the world. But none of that really mattered because emotionally, I just couldn't handle the pressure anymore. And so I ended up moving back home to Atlanta from New York City because I lived in New York for like 10 years. And when I moved back home, I still didn't go to counseling and I still didn't go see a therapist. Now, most of you all are in middle school and high school. And so you have school counselors that you can go and talk to when you have a problem. Same thing with adults. We should go see somebody like Dr. Gay or Miss Riaz, who you're going to meet when I pull them up. But I unfortunately let my ego get in the way. How many of us got an ego? We all got an ego, right? Whether you're a student leader or you're an athlete and you're a jock or you're a cheerleader and you're doing your thing, sometimes we're proud and we let our egos get in our way. So for me, I was this big time music exec and I was like, talk to a therapist. I don't need to talk to a therapist. I can fix my own problems. Well, guess what, y'all? What I realized is I couldn't. And so my stress started to really increase and kind of take over. So in 2014, I was dealing with my own level of stress, but I was headed on vacation and I talked to my best friend and she told me she was having a really tough day and she couldn't get out of her thoughts and her feelings. We always hear people say, oh, I'm all up in my head and my thoughts and my feelings. Well, she was up in her head and her thoughts and her feelings, and she had a lot of physical health issues that she was dealing with. And I'm sad to say that my best friend took her own life the very next day. And so as y'all can see, like, Auntie Shanti been through a lot when it comes to trauma and not being able to unpack it. And we all go through things, right? So many of our family members have passed away in the pandemic. We're dealing with a lot of grief and trauma. Certain things happen in our household that we might be embarrassed to talk about, things that happened with our family members and we can't really tell anybody because we're too embarrassed or ashamed to talk about it. Well, that was me. I was embarrassed and ashamed to talk about my dad. And then when it happened with my best friend, I was just ashamed because I felt like I didn't do anything to save her. So long story short, the next year was really tough for me. And so in 2015, and this is really serious, and I just want y'all to take this to heart, because sometimes it's difficult for me to be this open and honest, but I believe in each and every one of you. We got we have 1,700 students on here right now. So I want y'all to hear me and hear Auntie Shanti good. In September of 2015, I came close to taking my own life. I had counted up all the pills in my medicine cabinet, and it wasn't that I wanted to die. I just wanted the pain to go away. And so I finally ended up getting the help that I needed. But what I want to say to everybody that's on this Zoom, adults included, suicide, y'all, is never an option. That's why you got to silence the shame. You have to silence the shame around getting the help that you need, right? Because getting the help that you need, that really makes you like a superstar. That makes us the kings and queens that we were born to be. Being able to be resilient. Dr. Beasley talking about you being resilient. I'm telling you that you are enough. We need each and every one of you healthy from a mental health perspective and a physical health perspective. Think about it. If you a cheerleader and something happens, God forbid, at a game and you twist your ankle, well, you're not just going to go home and do nothing about it. Your mom or dad's going to take you to the doctor, right? Or you're going to see that trainer on the side of the field who can wrap up your ankle. If you're a football player, they're going to tape your ankle, a basketball player. You're going to get that fixed, right? So if something is going on in our minds, and guess what, y'all? The brain is the largest body in the organ. So why are we so ashamed to deal with mental health problems? And so what we're doing today is we're going to be the ones to silence the shame. I know the chat is disabled, but say it with me. Y'all can say it at the crib at home. I'm going to be the one to silence the shame. And that is just what I did in my life. I silenced my own shame. I called my doctor. My sister had encouraged me to call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and I did that. It's 1-800-273-TALK. It's a free resource available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, something you can talk to your parents about. And I went to see a psychiatrist and got the help that I needed. And that's why this slogan and theme, Silence the Shame, came about, because guess what? I started talking about it publicly. And so now I speak all around the country and all around the world, silencing the shame around mental health and getting young adults and students and kids like yourselves to understand that it's actually okay to talk about mental health. And there's this catchphrase or acronym that I came up with that's going to make it easier for y'all. So, our DJ was on playing a little music earlier. A lot of us love hip hop. We love, rap music, the good stuff, right? The good rap music. And so I came up with this term for rap, right? Being able to navigate through some of your feelings. So guess what? The R in rap stands for recognizing those unfamiliar feelings. If you wake up one morning and you just feel really, really down and you don't want to talk to nobody, you don't want to get out of bed, you're kind of shutting people out, you got to be able to recognize that you're having those feelings, right? So that's the R in rap. The A in rap stands for acknowledging and then accepting those feelings. Because how many times have y'all done something, you go like, oh, shit, I'm tripping, that wasn't me, but I ain't really do that. And we act like it didn't happen. Y'all, we can't do that no more. You got to acknowledge that it happened, and then you have to accept those feelings. And once you accept that it happens, then the P in rap is process. Being able to process through those feelings with what? A school counselor or a licensed mental health clinician and therapist that your family can help connect you to. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. So now I feel like I really am living my best life, because it's about what I put in my body, how I take care of myself from a physical perspective, and what I do to keep my head clear. And some of the things that I do is just from a self-care perspective. So I'm gonna run through 10 little tips that I give to people. Again, number one is paying attention to how you feel every single day. And you can journal, write it down, or put it in your smartphone, use your notes section, to write it down. So, but pay attention every day to how your feelings are. Number two, pay attention to what you eat. When you put too much sugar in your body, and I know we like candy, I know we like our sodas, but again, we want to live a healthy life if we can. So you need to do all of that stuff in moderation. Because guess what? When I eat too much sweets, and because I love chocolate, y'all, when I eat too much chocolate, it weighs me down. And sometimes that has an effect on my emotions. And your doctors and your therapists can tell you more about that. So pay attention to what you eat. The third thing is rest is revolutionary. Let's say it together virtually. Rest is revolutionary. I'm gonna tell y'all are at an interesting time in your lives, and everybody on this little thing right here called a smartphone. But if you don't get your rest at night, how many of y'all wake up the next day being cranky? So it's important that you make sure you talk to your doctors and your parents and get enough rest every night, because it is gonna affect how you feel mentally and physically. The other thing is this word. Y'all ever heard that word called no? N-O? No is a complete sentence. Even as a student, sometimes we have too much on our plates, or your friends want to hang out this weekend and you got a project due, or you got a dance coming up, or you got rehearsals for something, because we got all these activities that we're involved in. But sometimes if you're not feeling good or you're not in a good headspace, you can say no. It's actually okay to say no, and talk through it with your parents and with your coaches. And if you need a mental health break, it's okay to take that. The fifth thing is boundaries are a blessing. Everybody shouldn't be able to call you all times of night. I know y'all be on TikTok and Snap and Instagram, but sometimes you got to set up boundaries to be like, yo, like I'm taking it in at 11 o'clock. Like I can't do it no more. And so you have to be able to control those time limits. And those are called boundaries. You can write that word down and Google it, but those are called boundaries. And those are kind of like the parameters that you set up in your own personal space. And number 6 is asking who's in your starting five. How many of y'all like basketball? I know I do. The Hawks actually are doing good. I'm a big Trae Young fan. Guess what? The Hawks cannot go on the court and start the game until they have 5 players on the court. So what I say is, who's in your starting 5? And I'm talking to the students and the adults today, and the professors and everybody involved in the school system. Who's in your starting 5? And what that means, y'all, is we got to have somebody that we talk to. And I saw some of the student questions, and we're going to get into those later, but you need to be able to identify 5 people that you can go to if you're having a really stressful day or a really tough day. It could be a coach, it could be a school counselor, It could be someone in leadership within the school. It could be an auntie, like Auntie Shanti, because I know I talk to my nieces and nephews all the time if they're having trouble talking to their parents. And sometimes our parents don't really understand, right, what we're doing when it comes to mental health. And so we have to really make sure that we have someone who is going to take the time to listen to us. So just think about that, y'all, this weekend, and try to create a little record of 5 people that you can talk to if you're having a tough time. Number 7 is make self-care a part of your daily regimen. Self-care looks different for everybody. Some people like to go skating. Some people like to go running. Some people like to dance or ride their bike, or meditation or working out. I used to love going to the gym, but sometimes when you get in the gym or you get out there and go running, when you start working out, there are these chemicals in your brain, and that actually increases the endorphins in your brain. And I know I'm trying using some big words, but at the end of the day, it actually makes you feel better mentally and physically. That's why it's important for y'all to stay active. Don't just stay on the phone playing video games all day or on TikTok and not really talking to people. You got to get out and interact and get active and get moving. Number 8 is don't be ashamed to ask for help. I told y'all that. Sometimes it's really tough for us to ask for help, but it's nothing to be embarrassed about, because today we are going to be the one to silence the shame. So we're not going to be afraid to ask for help anymore. Number 9 is don't be afraid to talk to a counselor or a therapist. What you share with them is confidential and is personal. Again, we'll get more information from Dr. Gay and Ms. Riaz about how you can open up and share with a licensed mental health professional. And the last thing, number 10, is just mental health is a physical and mental lifestyle. It's not about that thing called mental health. I have people tell me, oh yeah, you do what? You talk about mental health? Oh yeah, I heard about that thing called mental health. I ain't really got that. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. We all have mental health. We may not all have a mental illness. So I want y'all to understand that mental health and wellness is just the ability to get up every day and to be able to go to school or to be able to be on this Zoom and get this extra credit, right? The fact that you are thinking clearly, right? And that your mind is processing your words and thoughts clearly. That's what mental health is. So it ain't like this, ooh, this thing over there that I don't want to touch. We all got it. And we just have to learn how to deal with it and cope in a healthy way. So again, I could talk forever and ever and ever, but I know we do have a full program. But I just wanted to give y'all a little bit of my story and let y'all know that, guess what? I'm gonna tell y'all, it's November 19th at 9:29 a.m. Shanti Das lived to tell her story. That is a moral of the story. We all have a good, long life to live. And everybody from Clayton County and all these dynamic high schools that I mentioned, y'all matter. Y'all are enough. Y'all are important. Kings and queens, I need y'all to understand that we love y'all. And the fact that Dr. Beasley and Dr. Simpson and everybody else on their team took the time to put this together, that means a lot. And so you're going to continue hearing conversations about mental health and wellness. And I just need y'all to understand the importance of it and talk to your parents about it. And so we can make it a whole family conversation and family thing, because there's so many artists that are opening up, so many athletes that are talking about it. So we just want you to understand and be able to really live your best life. So thank you for allowing me to share a little bit this morning. And now I want to bring our panelists into the discussion. First up, let me just pull my notes here. I want to bring this young lady who I have not had the pleasure of working with yet, but she came highly recommended. She works right here in Atlanta, Georgia at Emory University, Miss Annie Riaz. She is a neuropsychology intern at Emory School of Medicine and a doctoral candidate at SDSU/UC San Diego, which is a joint doctoral program in clinical psychology. So welcome, Ms. Riaz.
And thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to talk about mental health and coping strategies. We've all been teenagers once upon a time, believe it or not. So I think we could offer some perspectives when it comes to what all you are going through at this moment.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, a dear friend of mine. I feel like we're more like brothers and sisters now and warriors in this mental health fight together. Good friend of mine, Dr. Vaughn Ian Gay. He is a licensed professional counselor and a renowned mental health practitioner that has provided comprehensive psychological services and mental health advocacy and education in underserved communities and underrepresented populations over the last 10 years. Welcome, Dr. Gay.
Thank you, Shanti, and I appreciate you all having us this morning, and really the students. I want to thank the students for attending today. This is a full circle moment for me. When I was graduating from Stevenson High School about 20 years ago, Dr. Beasley was actually getting his career started. He was the principal. Absolutely, he became the principal maybe a year or two after I graduated from Stevenson. So this is a really good moment for me to be able to give back, to the students that he's overseeing right now, and being one of those students that he was had some hands-on involvement with when he was early on in his career. So great to be a part of this conversation. I'm looking forward to the things we're going to discuss today.
That is amazing. So, okay, Clayton County, that is a bonus. You actually got somebody that came through the system. Come on now. It don't get no better than that, y'all. Ain't God good? So we're going to be the one to silence the shame and keep this thing going. So my first question is to you, Dr. Gay, and then I'll toss it to you, Ms. Reyes. What is mental health? I tried to explain it, but I just need young kings and queens to just understand, what is mental health?
Yeah, mental health, especially from the teenage perspective, what we're looking at is just their ability to be able to go to school, engage with their friends, their teachers, their classwork, and their homework without any major behavioral or emotional disturbances. And when I say disturbances, sometimes we know teenagers they can be a little bit more emotional or irritable or agitated. Sometimes friends or family members can say things that trigger them. And because of that, and them still learning how to express themselves, who they can communicate things with, sometimes they'll hold things on the inside. And when they're holding on the inside and it starts to bubble up, it can cause them to have like an unhealthy day mentally or emotionally. So mental health, for our young folks, essentially what that means is, are you able to wake up, go throughout your entire day, and then come home, and go to sleep and engage everyone from a positive perspective without any major emotional or behavioral interruptions?
Thank you, Dr. Gay. Do you want to add anything to that, Ms. Reyes?
Yeah, just so part of what I do is see how mental health and how our well-being actually affects our way of learning and thinking. And for those who currently are in school, sometimes a lot of the times, if you're having problems learning, retaining information, paying attention in class, is a lot of the times could be that there is a mental health problem. So I think that's another thing that parents and teachers should really be on the lookout for. If you have a student that all of a sudden is struggling, is not paying attention in class, is not turning in their homework, it's important to check in on them, because perhaps what's going on is that they may be depressed, they may be stressed. And one of the things is providing these coping skills and strategies to actually improve their learning and improve how they're doing in school. So that's a connection to school that I wanted to add.
Awesome, amazing. My next question is, there seems to have been an upward trend in mental health challenges, right, with young African Americans over the last 10 years. Dr. Gay, what do you attribute some of those challenges to, and particularly in communities of color? For our teenagers.
Yeah, so I actually think that it's more of us having an understanding, us as the adults, the leaders, the teachers, the parents, we're having more of an understanding of what some of the things that we went through as teenagers, how this actually falls under the umbrella of mental health and therapy and counseling, et cetera. Most of us, our access to mental health essentially was the school counselor, but the school counselor was so focused on guiding us in our coursework and then making sure we, get college applications filled out. So we didn't have mental health conversations. There was access to therapists, but there was not a cultural push towards that. And so I think that the reason why we're seeing a lot more challenges now is because, look at what we're doing right now. We have almost 2,000 children in an entire school system talking to individuals that are from their community about mental health. And we're getting questions that are being asked to us. So I think our awareness is bringing more of an understanding of the challenges that young people of color have faced for a number of years within our society, whether it is social, whether it is response to things that are going on in our global society, whether it is things that are happening within the school system or the actual school. And it can be sliced a number of different ways, but I think that that's why we're starting to see more issues now, because we're actually increasing our awareness from the perspective of those that are responsible for handling those things.
Thank you. Do you want to add anything, Ms. Reyes?
Yeah, just to add to that, I think also the internet has played a role. I think now we are more exposed to people from different areas of the world, and people are more willing to actually speak up and share their own stories. So I think the internet itself could be good or bad in many ways. But one of the good things and the silver lining is that now we have this exposure, this awareness. there's a lot of resources that we're hoping to share as well that you can find in the internet from websites like the National Institute of Mental Health and the CDC, as well as other websites that deal with mental health disorders. But yeah, I think that the internet has played a really big role, but I think moving forward, this increased awareness is going to make mental health less stigmatizing for sure.
So I want to ask you, Ms. Riaz, how can students recognize signs and symptoms of, stress and particularly, or if they're going through a traumatic experience and they may be acting out, say, in anger, but don't really know how to process through it or don't really recognize those signs within themselves? How can they recognize and process through that?
Yeah, I think one of the things is noticing that change, right? Like if, in particular in things in areas of kind of like your everyday functioning. So if you think about school, have you noticed a change? You don't have no longer an interest with the things that actually make you happy, right? So I know from some students, they might like schoolwork, other students may not, but we're really thinking about the things that you usually enjoy, whether it's playing sports, listening to music, whether it's hanging out with friends. If you notice a change in that, right? And you are probably, let's say, sleeping too much or sleeping less, your appetite has changed. You've noticed that you're crying more often, and sometimes you may not even know the reason why you're crying. These could all be signs of depression. So one of the things is to notice, and Shanti was pointing it out, really pay attention to how you feel. Oftentimes our emotions, there's a thought, there's something that comes before that emotion. And that's what we want you to actually focus on. If you start crying out of nowhere, what happened right before that? What was a thought that you were having? Because usually our emotions are attached to thoughts. And one of the things is to really pay attention to these patterns and like how are things changing for you? Are things looking a bit different? Are other people pointing out that you're not the same, that you're not yourself, right? So those are the things, and that's for depression. Now for stress, usually when you're having problems coping with stress, what you'll notice is that you get agitated, you get easily agitated, like this is not who you are, or even more agitated than you used to get. Like I mentioned, the things that you enjoy are no longer enjoyable. You're having fights with your parents or maybe your friends. And this might be that you're actually having some, you're not able to cope with the stress. So we want to figure out what are those triggers. What are the trigger that's making you feel different from who you usually are? And that's what we're trying to target, are the triggers to kind of minimize and help you cope with the stress and anxiety.
And what does that word trigger mean, Ms. Riaz?
A trigger is basically something that actually changes your behavior, changes your emotion, right? Oftentimes when you're a teenager, your parents could be your own triggers, right? Maybe they say something, maybe they send you to go do your homework and all of a sudden you're upset. So it's basically that one thing that's actually causing stress. Sometimes, for example, let's say you're having an exam and you're preparing for the exam and all of a sudden you're feeling stressed. It could be that maybe taking an exam causes you anxiety, right? There's such thing as test anxiety, right? So that could be a trigger. So it's really kind of recognizing there's something that happens right before that emotion or thoughts come in.
Thank you. That was an excellent explanation. Dr. Gay, would you like to add a little bit to that?
Annie, she hit the nail right on the head. I was thinking about a number of the clients that I work with in my practice. I have a number of teenagers and adolescents that I work with all over Metro Atlanta. And I was trying to just generalize some of the behaviors and consistency that I see in some of them. As Annie said, emotionality, extreme anger, or agitation, or acting out in a way to where you're feeling defensive. If you're feeling like everyone is attacking you or coming for you, that's a common theme in this, that acting out, trying to protect yourself, as a sign of deep stress, or you may be dealing with some things that are too intense. If we're being honest, none of us on this panel knows what it's like to be, well, a few, but knows what it's like to be a teenager, right? That had to go through school during a pandemic, that's had to grow up with social media and having access, way too much access, honestly, to adult things, and having a teenager's perspective on how to handle that. It's a lot, right? So this is a learning process for us that's on this panel as well, and understanding that we have to be able to see things from the teenager's perspective, the adolescent's perspective. What is it that they're seeing on the day-to-day in the school building? How was it, to be completely isolated in the home, all day, every day, when they're used to being out of the home? a lot, so this is, we are learning and building this plane while we're flying it in terms of assessing the mental health of this generation of students. But again, some of those specific behaviors, emotionality, tearfulness, crying, isolation, or even turning inwardly and not speaking as much. When I was a teenager, because I didn't have the words to express how I was feeling, I was, Mr. I don't know. I don't know. It was the response to everything that my mom asked me. I don't know. I don't know. In my mind, I was just trying to wait her out until she just kind of left me alone, knowing that I had some things on the inside I wanted to talk about. But I just didn't trust her emotional response to some of the things I wanted to say. So it's layered, right? But the one takeaway that I do want the young folks to know is you have to find someone that is a trusted mentor, teacher, counselor, therapist, coach.
That's that starting five I talked about.
Listen, it is, I am in a lot of young people starting five, not because, it's my choice, but it's because, we've created a space for young people to come and just talk in confidentiality, from an understanding from their perspective. We talk about music, art, the whole nine, to be able to get connected with them so that they can start speaking and opening up. And once they open up, then us as practitioners, we can bring our clinical knowledge to their individual experience and to help and guide them. So this is a lot bigger than just this conversation or even, discussing what mental health is. We are actively being involved in making sure that the mental and emotional health of our young people doesn't get to a point to where they're needing clinical treatment when they become adults.
Absolutely. That is the whole point of this exercise. So y'all still with me? It is 9:43. I'm going to reset the room. You are tuned in to Be the One to Silence the Shame. I am Auntie Shanti, your moderator for today, and you are tuned in with Dr. Gay and Miss Riaz. I want everybody to give me a big stretch. Come on, adult students. I know we on Zoom. Everybody zoomed out. Give me a stretch. It's Friday, y'all. Friday. Yes, the Falcons didn't win, but it's okay. We got a World Series win with the Braves. So we're going to keep this conversation going as we're feeling good about ourselves and understanding what mental health and wellness is. So, Ms. Riaz, you sent over some really great information in terms of coping with stress and anxiety. And I did pass that along to you, Dr. Simpson, and so you can share it with your constituents and colleagues. So, sometimes, Ms. Riaz, again, we be all up in our heads and all in our feelings, and we're sad. Life can be tough and things can make us sad. Our parents can say something that makes us sad. A friend, a good friend, sometimes our best friends can say things, or our, whatever, can say things that make us sad, and it gets us down. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we're depressed. And so I hear people throwing out this term, oh, I'm depressed. I want y'all to tread lightly with that, right? Because depression is serious. And so sometimes you might just be sad, right? Because life is going to have ups and downs. But I want you to understand what depression is, okay? And what the signs and symptoms of depression is and how you can get the help. So, Ms. Riaz, I'm looking at one of your resource tabs for teens, and it says, do I have depression? Do you often feel sad, anxious, worthless, or empty? Have you lost interest in activities that you used to enjoy, which you mentioned earlier? Am I easily frustrated, irritable, or angry? I know when I lost my sister, y'all, my sister passed away, which Dr. Simpson knew my sister, and Auntie Shanti is still going through it and grieving the loss of her sister. And I knew after it happened, I was irritable. I would easily anger at a lot of stuff. And so a lot of these signs and symptoms that's on that chart, I knew I was depressed again. And I had to get the help to deal with that grief from losing my sister. Are my grades dropping? Has your eating or sleeping habits changed? Have you experienced fatigue or memory loss? Can you get into that a little bit more, Ms. Riaz, so we could tell these kings and queens that they may just be sad or they may be depressed and may actually have to deal with that?
Yeah, so we actually have a diagnostic kind of manual for disorders. And in order to have a clinical diagnosis of depression, it does have to be longer than 2 weeks, and it has to be every single day. So as you mentioned, yeah, we're going to experience sad days. We're going to, experience all those symptoms that you mentioned. But one of the key things is it's going over 2 weeks, right? And if it's going over 2 weeks, is it also impairing your ability to kind of do the things that you do on a daily basis, go to school, get up? But sometimes you're not even going to school. You don't want to wake up in the morning. But is it also too on the weekends? Are you sleeping in the weekends? And are your friends texting you, telling you, oh, let's go to the park, let's do this, and you're not even you don't even want to do that. I think that's one of the things to also kind of keep in mind, that is not just school, because some of us like school more than others, and that's totally okay. But is it also to those things that you enjoy, right? But got to keep in mind also too that it has to be for longer than 2 weeks in order to be, depression or major depressive disorder, as we clinically call it. So that's one of the things that, parents and teachers need to keep in mind. If the student the teen, it continues to experience these symptoms, that's really when we, have to talk to a therapist, a psychologist, a counselor, to really get the help that we need. Because as you mentioned, we don't want this to continue going on, and then for things to get worse, and for the student to feel a lot more worse than they initially did.
Thank you. And Dr. Gay, how do you really get help, especially as a young person? And I know there are a couple of questions from some of the students that we're going to get to this, but kind of, just give us kind of the high level of getting help as a teen.
Gotcha. So before I make that point, I want to just give another example of the differentiation between depression, within teenagers, and then maybe just sadness, right? The teenagers go through a lot of firsts, during that age range from between 13 and 18. First relationships, first real romantic relationship, possible breakups, right? Which can lead to some intense sadness. Maybe divorce within the family, parents separating, can lead to some intense sadness. When I was in high school, unfortunately, we had several students that lost their lives in car accidents and things like that. So there was some intense sadness, and things happen, unfortunately, right? And not having that adult experience or wisdom and knowing how to regulate those emotions or process things. I mean, we have adults that are in long-term therapy because of traumas that are very similar to that. So, we have to be graceful, when we're dealing with teenagers. A lot of them are dealing with major instances that are extreme and for the first time. And so that sadness to them may feel like depression. So continuously conversing with them and assessing where they're at. I think that's the first level of defense. Those are involved with students every single day. You all know their behavioral profile for the most part. So when they're a little bit off their game, or when they're, shutting down or isolating. So just a couple of questions, and it's not even necessarily an official mental health screening, but just, hey, are you okay? I kind of noticed that, you're not talking as much as you normally do. If you want to talk about some things in confidentiality, I'm more than willing to help, or if you want to speak to the counselor, et cetera. So we're operating like the first line of defense. It doesn't even have to be an adult. It can be a friend, right? A lot of times your friends are going to be the first ones to know that something is going on with you. And oftentimes they actually go and talk to the parent of the child. So that's the first level. When those that are in charge and responsible for young people know that there's a serious issue, then that's when we start going through a little bit of the I wouldn't say legal, but you go through a process where you have certain constructs in place. The counselor will more than likely, or the school social worker will have resources and relationships with those with individuals like myself, Ms. Reyes, Auntie Shanti as well, and being able to kind of pinpoint what may be beneficial for that student. So that student may actually need to be in long-term psychotherapy, which you're working with a therapist maybe once or twice a week, and you're discussing these deep-rooted issues that you've been having. Some people just need a mentor or a counselor to speak with every now and then to kind of do like spot checks, all right? Not having a really good day-to-day, or, this week has just been very bad. Can I come into your office during my lunch hour and just kind of talk about some things? We have to get innovative and creative in how we're addressing some of these things so that they don't manifest into big major problems. And then a lot of students actually just need a little bit of wellness education, or a little pick-me-up, or a volunteer opportunity, or a chance to be able to just get away from what's stressing them out. And I think that's where Silence the Shame is just a really, really great organization, because they're constantly on social media getting great messages out, making sure the message is palatable to teenagers, and then also giving lots of opportunities to come out, learn, watch lives, listen to podcasts. So there are different levels of where issues can be addressed with teenagers. You have the clinical treatment with therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists. And then you also have, the space to where wellness education, is very important too. So I think it's a wide spectrum of how we can help our young people.
Amazing. I love that. And all great information. Again, it is about helping our young people. And I just want to say, to everybody again that's listening, I share with you, I read a few of the comments that were in the Q&A. I share with you all the story of my own struggles And it's nothing to be embarrassed about, but it's nothing to glorify either. Having, consider suicide is not a glorification. And then I'm not saying that to you. It's no, notch on my belt or nothing also at the same time to be embarrassed about. But the important thing is getting help if you need it. That is why this conversation is so important today. And I applaud Clayton County and everyone here within the school system of what you're doing. So I hope, that we're reaching you all, that you're understanding a little bit more about mental health, and that you can take this conversation back into your homes and talk to your parents about it. Because there's some serious stuff. And Auntie Shanti, again, just want y'all to be your best selves and always, be in a good frame of mind so that you can do your work, or if you want to be an entrepreneur or start that business, get that online merch selling online, whatever you want to do, I'm here to tell you that you can do it. Again, you are enough. And as Dr. Beasley said, you are resilient. So we can get through all of this together. And that is the key, is doing this together. And that's why today is so important. So shout out again to all my young kings and queens that are on here today. We got 2,000 people in this virtual room. We are in here popping, talking about important life lessons. My next question, Ms. Riaz, what are some practical and healthy strategies that our teens can use when coping with stress and anxiety?
Yeah, so the first thing is recognizing, figuring out what are those, as I mentioned, the triggers, like what's really leading to that stress, right? So that's the first thing. And sometimes write them down, notice how you're feeling, whatever it is that's actually increasing your level of stress, then that is the trigger that you actually want to kind of deal with, right? Sometimes those triggers, especially when it comes to school stuff related to school, maybe our parents, may not go away, right? But it's about how do we actually cope with them. There are a few things that you could do. One of the things that I always recommend with everyone who I work with is that you want to do more of the things that actually bring you joy, that make you happy, that are healthy for you, right? There may be some things that actually bring you joy, but are not really healthy for you. But you want to think about the things that do bring you joy, whether it's, playing sports with your friends, catching up with your girlfriends. You want to do more of that, right? Because when you're feeling stressed, you want to elevate those hormones, those, endorphins in your brain that actually bring in that joy. That's the first thing you want to do. And then if you're having trouble kind of keeping up with that, put it in your schedule, plan for it. Say, every Friday at this time, I'm going to do this, right? Because, and also too, by bringing in your friends to do it, there's like some accountability, right? The other thing that you could do is actually to manage that stress, there's a few things. Exercise helps a lot, which Shanti mentioned earlier. What it does, it actually gives, increases oxygen to your brain, and that's always good for your brain. And also to kind of release that stress, that physical stress, because stress is not just the way that you feel, but you feel it in your body. You're going to feel more tense. You may have headaches. You might have stomach problems. The breathing may be heavy. So we feel stress in our bodies as well, right? So you want to, exercise. Also, to breathing techniques could be very helpful. I provided some resources in terms of breathing. Again, if you were ever nervous or anxious, I'm sure your breathing was elevated. You started breathing a lot harder, right? So when we're stressed, when we're anxious, our breathing goes up, right? So by learning how to breathe, that's going to calm our body, especially when in that moment we're actually feeling stressed or anxious. That's another thing to do. And then structure your day. Structure your day. Like, do not leave, for example, homework for the last minute, because that's going to increase your stress. If you got to study for a test, break things apart. Also, another thing that we recommend, focus your attention, is if you're working on something, work for 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break, right? Making sure that you're including breaks throughout your day is another way to cope with stress. So breathing, exercising, also eating healthy, getting enough sleep. And Shanti mentioned that as well. So one of the things with sleep is actually it affects our brain. So when we have very little sleep, the next day you're going to feel tired. If you're feeling tired, you're not going to be paying attention. And if you're not paying attention, then that's going to actually end up being a problem with memory. You're not going to retain that information that you're learning in school. You're going to, you're going to have problems in terms of how you're feeling, dealing with people. You're probably going to be cranky. So making sure that you get a good enough sleep. And just to kind of mention the sleep too, because I'm a neuropsychologist in training, is actually good for your brain, and it's one of the greatest things that we could do to make sure that we have good brain health. So sleep, exercise, do more of those things that you enjoy, structure your days, take breaks, and then breathing are some of the best things that you could do to cope with stress. And as we mentioned before, having a supportive team, having a team of people, as Shanti was mentioning, you're starting 5, who you could talk to when you're feeling stressed, people who could actually take maybe a few things out of your plate as well. So making sure that you have that support system in place there as well.
Thank you, Ms. Riaz. All right, the time has come now for us to bring in our student leaders who have some questions. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Taylor, who I think is going to lead us into this next section of Q&A.
All right, thank you, Auntie Shanti. We have our students who are ready to ask questions on behalf of their peers in Clayton County. We have our student leaders from Jonesboro High School. Thank you so much, Amari, Nia, Simone, Destiny, and Melanie. Not pictured is Juan Rosales. Thank you so much. We have our student leaders here from M.E. Stillwell School of the Arts, Michaela, Crystal, Amari. Not pictured, we have Ricardo, Leader, Lee, Alexis, Grace Brown, and Alan. Thank you so much for participating with us. And our last set of student leaders are coming to us from Elite Scholars. And so we're going to make sure that we bring up all of our student leaders again so that you can see everyone pictured and know who is representing you. Student leaders, are you ready to unmute and ask your questions? All right, so we're gonna go first with Destiny. Destiny, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Hello, everyone. I hope y'all are doing well. My name is Destiny Smiley, and I'm a senior at Jonesboro High School. And my first question was, y'all talked about healthy coping skills, but I wanted to know, what do you consider bad ways to deal with problems, or ways that would just make it worse?
That's a great question. Would you like to start with that, Dr. Gay?
Yes. So this is opinion, not fact. I think one of the worst things that I just observe people doing when they're going through an emotional moment, right then and there, is going to social media. Right, going to social media to kind of get answers or validations for what they're feeling in that moment without doing any type of processing. Right, so I think that while it can be a good resource, of getting maybe some positive messaging, etc., really kind of how do I say it? Divulging, all the what's kind of you're going through right then and there. That's not necessarily the best way to process things, because you may not be getting good feedback, or the feedback that you do get may make you feel worse. So I don't think that's the best coping mechanism. A lot of times with teenagers, they start to experiment, with maybe drugs or alcohol, and we know that because as people become adults, that's one of the go-to coping mechanisms. And then also just really aggressive behavior, a behavior that's not really within their normal profile to make them feel good within the moment. Those are some things that I, typically see, so using some substances to make them feel good, engaging in some behavior that may make them feel good or take their minds off of it, or just kind of just going straight to social media to get some positive some type of feedback that will validate their feelings. So not necessarily the best approaches in the moment when they're going through something.
And I'll just quickly add to that. One thing I think is isolating yourself when you're going through problems. That's one of the things that I did. And, I regret that I did that, not letting close friends and family members know what I was going through. I didn't tell my brother for a year what I had gone through. I was just kind of hiding because I was embarrassed. And I was that word shame, I was ashamed, but we're going to put that cross through the shame because we're silencing the shame today. But yeah, you gotta, again, find somebody to talk to. And I know when you're younger, that is more difficult. And going back to what Dr. Gay was saying earlier, I remember when my mom used to ask me stuff, I'd be like, I don't know. Everything was, I don't know. So I agree with that. But at some point, it's like you do know, right? And you gotta find the courage and strength to be able to tell somebody. And so I really just urge you all to, again, try to talk to your parents, somebody in your family that will understand, because you still are under the care of your parents. So I want to also mention that everything that we're saying today this is our opinion on mental health and wellness, but we want you to be able to talk it over and talk it through with your parents, with your school counselors, within leadership, within Clayton County. And it just gives you, it educates you more, right? In terms of being able to process through all of this. But the worst thing you can do is keep it to yourself or stay alone and isolate. You definitely want to connect with others and find help through that connectivity. Next question.
Next question from
And I
Grace
hope that was
Brown,
helpful for you, Destiny. Was that helpful for you?
Yes, that was. Thank you.
All right. Best of luck to you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Destiny. Next question from Miss Grace, please. Grace Brown.
Okay, my question is, how does the school system show they value the mental health of students?
Does anyone from Clayton County leadership want to answer that?
Actually, I'll pass that on to Sherry Ann. I think she's probably the one that's best suited to answer that question.
Okay.
Taylor? Okay.
We show that we care about your mental health by having members of what's called a circle of support at your school. You each have a school counselor, if not multiple, a school social worker, a school psychologist, as well as a behavior interventionist that come to your building every day. We are there to talk to you, to develop plans, to help you talk to your parents. Just as Ms. Doss mentioned, you have to be able to talk to your parents, but some of the topics are oftentimes difficult. So we're there to serve as your advocates. We also have a lot of programs that we're going to talk to you about later that we want you to engage in, to get involved in. We show we care by being there every day for you, standing up for you, standing in the gap for you, having resources for you. So I hope that you learn more today about how we show we care, but those are the ways that we show we care daily. Ms. Grace, thank you so much for your question. I hope that we were able to answer it. Can I next hear from Crystal?
Hello?
Hi, Crystal, we can hear you. Are you having a little difficulty?
Okay.
All right, there you go.
I was just asking. All right. So my question is, how should we manage our mental health, especially when you're feeling overwhelmed?
I think she
So
said,
to
how should we manage mental health when you're feeling overwhelmed? Was that it, Crystal?
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Riaz, would you like to take that?
Yeah, so feeling overwhelmed is very similar to stress, right? Like you may have a lot of things going on, multiple exams, multiple homeworks, maybe your parents are asking you to do this and that. So one of the things is first is kind of take a break, take a moment to actually, one, maybe go for a walk, do something that you enjoy, take a moment, a break for yourself, to then kind of regroup and be like, go back to that to-do list that you may actually, whatever is making you stress or overwhelmed. So you want to make sure that you do take that break, that you do something that you enjoy. And then trying to figure out how can you actually reduce whatever is making you overwhelmed? What are the things that are making you stress, right? Are some of them from, in your control? There's a lot of things that we're going to be dealing with, and us that now are adults, we had those as teenagers, over times have changed, and they're going to continue going on into adulthood. So you're still going to have stressors, right? Then, once you're an adult, you're going to have bills to pay. So it never ends. And one of the things that you need to learn is, how do you cope with those things, right? And one of the ways is to actually look at what's bringing you stress. Are there things right now on my plate that I could remove? Am I doing too much, right? What are the reasons that I'm feeling overwhelmed? And are any of these, in my control, or are they out of my control, right? So once you take a break for yourself and you do something that you enjoy and you're feeling a lot better and a lot more calmer, then you look into that and figure out whether you could actually, maybe restructure your day, maybe, remove a few things that are making you feel overwhelmed, and also ask for help, right? In the moment that you're feeling overwhelmed, you want to ask for help. You want to have that one friend, maybe two, that you actually could go to and say, hey, right now, I'm not feeling like myself. You don't have to give details. You could just say, I'm not feeling like myself at this moment. I need some help. Let's go for a walk, let's watch a movie. do something and then you kind of regroup and then go back and think about how can you kind of restructure things, so like that you could start feeling better.
And if I could just quickly add to that, there's a really great website called psychologytoday.com, and I'll send this link to Dr. Simpson that he can distribute. But some of the tips also, playing with a pet is really good. There are a lot of different organizations that use pets as quote unquote therapy, and it's just a way of coping. But they have pet therapy dogs also, that you can get a trained dog who's trained to administer, therapy to their owner. Also, meet and communicate with friends. Ms. Riaz talked about that, taking a walk, watching a movie. It says that research has found that meeting with peers and talking about what's going on, including past events that you're still processing, prevents burnout and promotes well-being. Group connections are so important to fostering resilience. Going back to that word resilient that we heard earlier, and releasing chemicals in the brain that support well-being. So again, that starting 5 could be of friends, right? Who's that group of friends that you can go to that won't necessarily feel sorry for you, but kind of show more empathy as opposed to sympathy. And if y'all don't know what those 2 words are, you can Google it. Empathy versus sympathy. You want someone to actually kind of put themselves in your shoes and kind of feel what you're feeling, if you will, so that they will be more willing to help.
Okay, scholars, I want you to listen up. So I'm going to do the next 2. It's going to be, we're going to hear from Ms. Ross. And after Ms. Ross asks her question and receives her answer, I want for Ms. Lee to be ready to ask her question. Okay, so that's going to be Ms. Ross and then Ms. Lee. Thank you so much, scholars.
My question is, does getting help from a mental health care professional look the same for each individual?
That is a great question. I'll let Dr. Gay take that.
Absolutely not. And that's just the cold, hard truth about it. The same way to where if you go to, your pediatrician, you may get, the advice from one pediatrician, you may have to get a second opinion. There's no perfect approach, right, to therapy or counseling. And you may get a little bit of variety or variance in the advice that you're getting from more than one therapist. The most important part about therapy is developing rapport and having that relationship with the therapist, in which you can actually trust them, and you know that they're coming from a very genuine place and a place of commonality, right? So a lot of clients that seek out me for service, it's because they want a Black male therapist so that I can work with their child or themselves, and they want my advice from my perspective, right? It may be completely different if you're getting the advice from Ms. Reyes or for any licensed therapist. And so it's going to be a little different. There are some core trainings that we all have been trained in. And so, of course, we do have that clinical skill, but it's going to be a little different. And sometimes you may have to go to, one therapist may not be the best fit for you, which is completely fine. And we understand that. Sometimes you may have to seek out another therapist to be able to assist you. And that's why it's really good. And you all need to, it's kind of like the conversation for your parents. Doing a consultation. Most therapists will provide just a quick 15, 20-minute talk so that you can get an understanding of who they are, and they can get an understanding of you without having to go into a deep dive of your personal information and then it not being a good fit and you have to do it again. All right. So no, it's not going to be exactly the same. However, there are some commonalities amongst therapists to where if you get a good one, hold on to them, develop that good relationship, and through the limits of confidentiality, you'll be able to discuss a lot of things, and that way you'll be able to get the assistance that you need.
And quickly, Auntie Shanti will add, okay, because I'm back in therapy. I told y'all, sometimes it's like buying those pair of jeans that you want, right? They might be too big in the waist, but just the right length, or they might be too long or too wide. What you're going to do, you're going to keep trying on the jeans till you get to the right one. Same thing with therapy, just like any other doctor or any other person in your life that you're dealing with from a health perspective. Keep going, as Dr. Gay says, till you find the right fit. It is different for everybody. He is so right about that. And for me, my experience has been very different, but I finally found someone that looked like me, understood my experiences, understood my cultural background, and it's actually working for me. And I feel like she hears me. Like, So don't get discouraged. You know, a lot of times people have tried to talk to counselors or say, you know, it's not really for me. They don't get me. They don't understand me. And how many times have we said, like, our parents, they just don't get us. So we kind of clam up and we shut down. It's not what we want to do. We want to silence the shame around all of that. You cannot clam up. You cannot shut down. You keep going, just like everything in life. Be resilient until you find the right one that works for you.
All right, so my question is that typically for men, right, society often wants to perceive them as strong or perfect in any sense. And typically for males in society, if they have a mental problem, they are often viewed as weak. So just for the male population, how would you seek help from a mental professional and still appear strong?
Great question, Dr. Gay. Take it away.
Yeah. So to be honest with you, you know, actually asking for help, right? Actually recognizing that there's something going on within you that you just don't have the resources to figure out, you know, by yourself. That actually takes the true strength. You know, what's weak is saying, you know what, there's nothing wrong with me, or I don't need to talk to nobody, or I can do this. But that's really like the sign of weakness, right? Because you're not allowed, you don't want anyone to really know what's bothering you, which means that, you know, on the surface, you really don't want to get better. Right. And so, you know, what actually takes true strength, especially for men, you know, we're not, you know, our society has shifted a lot. Number one, men are going to therapy, men are therapists, men, you know, we have support groups and group therapy and the whole nine. So we are actively doing the work. But, you know, just the overall understanding is that men are supposed to be physically tough, emotionally tough, financially strong, all these things. That's just not true, right? We're all human beings. We all live in the same society and we all deal with a lot of the same stuff. Right. And so what I tell all of my clients are those are even, you know, kind of around the edge of wanting to get started, but not really being sure, you know, if this is going to affect their manhood or how people look at them. I say, listen, what you're doing is you're showing true strength. You know, what a lot of people, you know, will not do because of the fear of having to deal with a lot of those traumas and having to go through that hurt and pain again. So for any young men that are listening right now, number one, I have a number, and I mean a number of teenage boys, young men, and those that are getting ready to go to college that are in service. We have great conversations, have a great time. Sometimes we don't even talk about therapy. Sometimes we talk about music, you know, and social media and things that are going on in those spaces because the relationship is so important, and we're vested in our clients. And so it takes true strength to say, hey, something's going on, and I'm ready to get some consistent help or support with this.
And the last thing that I'll just add is, you know, Dr. Gay just mentioned that word fear. Y'all, fear is what hinders most of us from getting help, whatever help that we need, whether it's physical health that we need or mental health. And so I want to make sure that we understand that we're going to turn fear into being fierce, right? So we're going to erase that word fear from our vocabulary and use the word fierce or fight on, because we're going to keep fighting on. We got to fight in our communities for things that we want, and we got to fight to be great students. We got to fight in our communities to get equal pay and equal justice. Same thing with mental health. Instead of fear, we're going to fight on and we're going to be fierce. Next question.
I like that. So we're going to hear now from both Amari. We have two Amaris on the line. So I'm going to hear from Amari Jones and then Amari Farrell next.
Hello, and my question is, how do you deal with the mental pressure that you get from what people have to say about you?
Ms. Taylor, do you know what that question is?
Amari, can you repeat your question, please? We did not hear you.
How can you deal with the mental pressure that you can get?
So how do you deal with the mental pressure of what people say
about you?
Okay, Ms. Riaz.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Can you take that question, Ms. Riaz?
Yes, of course. And I think one thing to kind of keep in mind is that being a teen is hard. It's difficult. We all went through it. And as I mentioned, it might be very different times, because before cell phones and social media and all that stuff, like it was just based on, what was happening in person. But now the pressure, it's not just in person when you're in school, but it's also on the internet, on social media apps and all that stuff. One of the things is, if you're feeling like you're getting a lot of that pressure from social media, go on a break. Take a break, delete the application, right? Sometimes people be on the comments, reading what others are saying. Stay away from that, right? You want to eliminate that, even if it's for a break, to take a week, 2 weeks off, whatever you need. And then if it's in person, that's why having that support system is really important. Sometimes you're going to hear things that may not be true about yourself, right? And talking to your friends about it, talking to your parents, right? I think really processing those things and recognizing, and being surrounded by people who actually are good for you, right? Who are going to support you, who are not going to pressure you to do something that you actually don't want to do, that you feel uncomfortable, right? You want to keep good people around you, good friends around you, who are going to really be there for when you're feeling that pressure. And take that break. Take that break from social media. Take that break from the internet, and see how you feel after you take that break, and to release some of that pressure as well.
There is a feature on social media too, that if you do want to post, once you get back from that break, you can turn off the comments, right? Because everybody doesn't have to always comment on your life, right? It's nice to get those, people who say, oh, you look great, or that's nice, or congratulations. But sometimes we can celebrate ourselves and just be happy within our own skin. So don't put so much merit into what other people are saying about you and in their comments. We got to wake up every morning, look in that mirror and say, I am enough, right? I am enough. And you got to believe that and know that and live it and be fierce and fight on and break through the fear and break through that negativity and just be comfortable in your own skin. So being able to turn off those comments can be great.
Ms. Farrell.
Oh, okay. I'm just making sure that was the last of the questions. Hey everyone. So my question is, how much would therapy cost?
Dr. Gay, I'm gonna let you take that one.
That's always the money question is always the ugly one, right? So let's speak some positivity into that. Therapy has value, right? Just like anything else we pay for in the world, therapy has value, and with that value, there's a cost. Most therapists do accept insurance. So the same way if you go to the dentist or go to the doctor or anytime your parents have to use the insurance card, the same process, with us. Your parents may have to pay a copay of $25 or $30. But when you're thinking about that, $25 for an hour of therapy, I mean, that is super, super, super affordable. And we're talking about making therapy affordable. Insurance does a decent job of doing that, depending on, what type of insurance your parents have. But there are a lot of folks that don't have insurance, so we say, all right, so if I have to pay out of pocket, it's pretty expensive for that 1 hour. And how do I know that 1 hour is going to fix everything in my life, right? Number one, it won't. Okay, so one therapy session is not going to fix everything. You may be able to get some tips and some clues and some insight. Therapy can cost. It can be pretty expensive if you're paying out of pocket. It can run between $100 and $200, for that hour. And so that's why we have a number of resources in place. A lot of nonprofit organizations do their best to cover the cost of therapy. You may have to reach out to them, send them an email. There's someone that listed, the psychology clinics at some of the institutions, the universities around Atlanta, Georgia State, Emory. They may provide some free therapy for those for their students. Their graduate students are going through training and they need to be able to do hours with people. So you may be able to get some free or affordable therapy from a local college as well. So there are a couple different options. But like everything else that we need in society, there's a value and there's a little bit of a cost that's attached to it.
Let me just add and clarify. The question wasn't ugly. It gets ugly when you talk about money. So that was actually a really great question. So thank you for that question. And what Dr. Gay was just trying to say is it gets tough sometimes when you pull money into the equation, because I know as teens, y'all are still in school and trying to make it. And some of y'all might not have insurance, or you may be on your parents' insurance, but it's really expensive. And so I'm going to let Ms. Riaz comment really quickly before we start to conclude the program. But I also just want to add that there's a such thing called a community service board. So write that down, community service board, and you can Google it. And most like counties and cities have community service boards that actually do offer free 99, free.com, which is what y'all want to hear, free therapy and wellness. So just because, you know, a lot of some of the really more popular clinicians, of course, they cost like anything else. You know, you got to pay for everything in life, right? And you pay for, you know, sometimes the better skilled folks cost a little bit more. But that is not to say that if you truly need help, that you cannot get the help that you need. And even like Grady Hospital, they have a behavioral health center that they offer free to the community. So just know that help is available, and you're going to get some more sources mentioned at the end. I'll let Ms. Riaz share if there's anything within the Emory University system, and then we're going to close y'all out. All right, let's go, Ms. Riaz.
Yeah, so unfortunately here with the Department of Psychiatry, it's really booked up. It's actually months and months in order to get an appointment, and that just to show you how much people are valuing mental health. So in terms of if you need something immediate, go to your counselors in your schools. That's the first thing to do. Also too, there's a lot of community providers that actually may have what we call, scaling costs, meaning that it's based on your income. But yeah, like Dr. Ray mentioned, your insurance should be able to cover therapy sessions. It's just a matter of connecting, letting your parents know so that they could figure that out for you. But in the meantime, definitely, go to your school counselor if you need help immediately.
Thank you. Was that the final question, Ms. Taylor?
Oh, no, ma'am. We have a few. And so what we're going to do is allow 2 more students to ask questions.
Okay, great.
Leader panel, if you have a question that is remaining, what we'll do is make sure it's answered. And we're going to go ahead and have all of your questions that were posed and the answers listed on the Department of Student Behavioral Health as a resource so you can go back and review it. Student leaders, I want you to know we value you. So if you're not called on, we have several more opportunities that you're going to lead for your schools in the area of mental health. I value your time today and I thank you. So I'm going to randomly call on Ms. Hughes and also Nia Simone to close us out. So Nia Simone will ask the last question. We're going to then go into very briefly some resources that you can click on and are available to you over the break as well. And that if after today you have some probing questions, some more you'd like to follow up or you'd like to talk to someone, the final slide will be how you do that. So again, we have Ms. Hughes and Ms. Nia Simone that are going to close us out with our student panel.
Good morning.
Morning.
My question is, so basically, how do you recognize our emotions and how does that mindfulness help us with our mental health?
How do we recognize our emotions, and what was the last part, Ms. Hughes?
And how does the mindfulness of our recognize supposed to help us?
How mindfulness?
Mindfulness.
Okay, great. Got it. All right, I'll let Dr. Gay start with that.
Okay, so feelings and emotions, they exist within our brain, right? But they're response to thoughts or events that are happening, right? So it's like a feeling is one of those things kind of hard to explain. It's like a combination of different things going on within your body, right? But you know what it is, right? And it can kind of come over you just gradually, or bam, it can happen in an instant. All right. So whether it's anger, whether it is a mood swing or moodiness, sadness, etc., we can kind of know when our energy shifts, right? And so, self-awareness is a term that we use, and really being honest with yourself about what you're feeling and why, and then what you can do with that, right? So that's in terms of understanding your feelings and what to do with it, that's the first thing. Mindfulness, in response to that question about mindfulness, it is a concept that is normally packaged with meditation, right? Stepping away from the physical environment, putting yourself in a nice calm space and just allowing yourself to think and breathe. But the purpose of mindfulness is really to kind of bring you back to that whole element of self-awareness. We're being more mindful of the things going on around us and within us. We're able to appropriately respond to triggers, things that are going on at home, at school, etc. So by practicing paying attention to the small details in life, that will lead you to pay more attention to the details within yourself and around you when you are experiencing a situation that's triggering your emotions. So emotion recognition and how mindfulness helps out with that.
And I'll just add, there's some really great meditation apps, Ms. Hughes, that you can download on your phone. Calm, C-A-L-M is one. And then there's another one called Sanvello, S-A-N-V-E-L-L-O. Or you can simply, in your search engine, just type in mindfulness apps. A lot of the mindfulness apps offer because of course they do charge monthly fees, but some of them do offer free subscriptions, and a lot of those have been offering specials during the pandemic and so forth. So maybe talk to your parents about it. But I think the apps really help because a lot of them have speakers that help you through it, or virtual instructors. They have music and all types of things. And especially with the pandemic, they've really built out robust mindfulness practices for you. So that's a great place to start for any of you all that might just need some help kind of with meditating. Because I know I used to be okay, trying to do yoga. And I was I don't feel nothing yet. What's going on? So I needed some help to get me going. And so those apps are really good in terms of really practicing the mindfulness.
Our final question, please.
Okay, good morning. Can you guys hear me?
We're having a little bit of issue, but go ahead.
What are ways that you can suggest for students to manage mental health problems like PTSD? Sometimes if nothing helps.
That's a great question, Ms. Simone. Thank you. What are ways that students can manage mental health problems, especially PTSD? And we didn't get a lot into trauma, and I know that's something that's really important. So I'll let Dr. Gay start, and then we will close with Ms. Riaz.
Yeah. Now, when we start talking about things like PTSD, which is a specific mental illness that's diagnosable, the only way that you can actually know that you have PTSD, I guess clinically, is by getting assessed by a therapist. If you feel like you've been through traumatic experiences and it is constantly triggering you, it is impossible for you to be your own therapist, your own psychologist, your own psychiatrist. All right. If you have reached out, like we said on a surface level, reached out to the school counselor, the parent, et cetera, and they haven't been able to give you, just really good sound advice to deal with that, then it is your responsibility, or let me not say responsibility. You have to advocate for yourself and say, hey, I actually sat on this panel and one of the doctors said that I may need to go speak to a therapist, right? Because if I'm dealing with some major trauma, the teachers or the resources at school may not necessarily be equipped to deal with that. And so that is a point to where you say, I need to at least speak with a therapist, maybe just one time, so that you can get a really good understanding of the specific traumas or the things that you are dealing with or the stresses associated with it. But again, there's no, I would not advocate for a young person to deal with PTSD on their own. And so, there's, from my perspective, there's no specific tips to deal with it. Being your voice, and saying, hey, I need to speak with someone, and, however I need to get connected with them, I need to be an advocate for myself. And the reason why this is important now, for you all to be practicing some of these things as teenagers, you're going to be adults very, very soon. 10 years, 15 years, that sounds like a long time from your barometer, but that time comes and goes very quickly. You're all going to have families. You're going to be the head of your households, big time jobs. So stress, right, happens. Anxiety, anxious feelings, they happen. Sometimes trauma comes out of nowhere and it happens. If you all don't have the resources or the understanding of what those things are and what's the best approach to responding to it right now, when you have some practice, then when it actually matters in adulthood, the outcomes may be a little bit different. So that, again, that's what this conversation is super important, at least to spark a couple of thoughts And I've been trying to respond to as many questions in the chat and the Q&A as possible, but this is just so important for you all to recognize, getting some of this information right now and understanding how it applies to your life is going to change the future of your lives so much.
Thank you, Dr. Gay. And Ms. Taylor asked everyone, please stay on for a few minutes longer. They're going to share resources with you and ways to connect with them, especially over the break. Ms. Riaz, did you have any final remarks for that question?
I agree 100% with Dr. Gay. And the one thing I do just want to emphasize, the research has shown that there has to be specific therapy for PTSD in order for people to get better and to start feeling better. So yes, I agree 100% with Dr. Gay. This is something that needs to be addressed by a therapist.
Thank you. Well, it has been certainly a pleasure on behalf of myself, Auntie Shanti, Dr. Gay, and Ms. Riaz. Thank you for allowing us to come on to just encourage you today to be the one to silence the shame. It's some really important information that we're going to share with you in terms of resources. And that's the whole point of this exercise today, is to get resources so that you can go and live productive lives. You can take this information back to your communities, in your homes, share with your sisters and brothers, your cousins, your besties, whatever, your homeboys. Take this information, don't hoard it, right? It's important that we all want to be our best selves, and we want to uplift each other in our communities. We knock each other down so much. Sometimes we have to deal with bullying. That stops today, right? The fear goes away. We're going to fight on. We're going to be fierce. We're going to know we are enough. We're going to be resilient, as Dr. Beasley said, and we're going to keep on being the ones to silence the shame in our communities. Auntie Shanti loves y'all. We are here to support you. It's so many wonderful resources within the Clayton County school system. I'm going to turn this back over to Ms. Taylor, who's going to talk to you about those resources. So thank you again. God bless y'all. Happy Turkey Day, and take care of yourselves.
Thank you so much. I'm going to turn the audience over to our screen here. I want to talk to you quickly about the circle of support. This is the help that you get at your school. The next voices that you will hear represent the people in your building that you can go to and ask for support, for help. We will connect you to resources. We will connect you to therapy. We'll connect you to programs within your school, and we'll be able to talk to your family about what you can afford. Clayton County Schools believes in your mental health. And we not only say that, but we'll support you by helping you get therapy. So we'll talk to you about that now. I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over first to our leader of our Department of Discipline Prevention, Intervention, and Supports. Let's go ahead and hear from Dr. Edbuna.
Good morning, everyone, and I'll be brief. We just have like a minute. I'm the Director of Student Discipline Prevention and Intervention, and our wonderful scholars, I just do want to share a few resources with you. We do have a lot, but I just want to begin with the fact that all our schools are now PBIS schools, meaning that we are implementing the positive behavioral interventions and supports, and the essence really is to change the mindset of adults and also make sure that our behaviors continue to be positive and that we set up an environment that is conducive for you to be able to learn and also to be successful and to provide you all the additional supports that you need, not just with behavior, but in other areas as well. And I also want to invite you as part of that effort to promote the implementation of PBIS. We're also inviting you to please contact your principal or your assistant principal and be part of the PBIS versus battle. And you can join your school team, showcase your talent and your creativity. We have 4 areas that you can compete in, and that is from rap to poems, spoken words, to songs, as well as brief commercial. Please reach out to your principal or AP so you can be a part of the team that will represent your school. The final events are on the 7th, 8th, and 9th for the different levels. And also, we do have in each school behavior intervention specialists, and they have weekly connection times. These are just informal sessions for them to check in with you, know how you're doing, know how they can support you better. Like every other speakers, everyone has mentioned, we care about you. We need to know what's going on and how we can support you. So please join those connection times. The links are in your emails, and also you can also get them from your teachers or from your AP and principal. And then the last resource I want to share with you is the CAP challenge. Right now, we are administering surveys. We want to make sure that, just like we all talked about today, we want to make sure that you are connected to a caring adult in the building. So that is the short form for CAP, caring adult in the building. So please complete that survey. You've received that from your school leadership. Complete that and identify at least 3 CAPs. Then they will make sure, try to assign you at least to 1 CAP in the building, a caring adult that will work with you and support you and make sure that your needs are met and that you are successful. Thank you so much. At this point, I'll yield the floor back to Ms. Taylor.
All right. So Dr. Collier and our team of social workers, what do you have in our buildings for our students? Let's hear about it.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Trinice Johnson. I'm a licensed clinical social worker with Clayton County Public Schools under the leadership of Dr. Angela Harrison Collier. We are a part of the Circle of Support, and we want to be a part of your starting 5. School social workers are trained in youth mental health first aid. We also provide trauma-informed care training for schools who have been listed as trauma schools. We are also certified in CITY, which is Crisis Intervention Training for Youth. And we are becoming certified at the beginning of the year in CBITS, Crisis Behavior Intervention and Trauma Schools. Please come to see us because we are looking forward to serving you and we love helping. Please ask for your school social worker and we want to be a part of your starting 5. Thank you.
All right, we're going to hear from Mrs. Cooper, followed by Dr. Dunn.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Stacia Cooper, and I'm the lead school psychologist under the Department of Student Behavioral Health and Wellbeing, which is home to our school psychologists. Every one of our school sites has a school psychologist, and we want to connect with you. We want to make sure that you know that you matter. And like Auntie Shanti was saying, you are enough. As part of some of the supports that we offer through our department, we are supporting the district in the evolution of our school-based mental health and wellness model, which has evolved to become SPARK, which stands for Schools Partnering to Advance Wellness, Resilience, and Knowledge. And so through this model, we aim to provide a continuum of supports to meet all students' needs to ensure that you have access to supports to enhance your well-being and your wellness. And so we have access to our wellness walk. We have student wellness groups that you're able to join. We have supports for those individuals who might need some additional support. So there was a conversation about therapy and counseling. And so we have resources that are available for you to access those. We will have our weekly activities related to mindfulness, getting engaged and connecting with our peers and other adults in the buildings, wellness, thriving, and freeing our feels.
All right, close us out on our resource page, Dr. Dunn.
We can't hear her.
School counselors.
Can you hear me now?
Nope.
So it seems like we're just having a little bit of technical issues with Dr. Dunn. Can you try one more time? If not, we're going to close out by talking about how our school counselors, again, are in every school site. Some of our secondary schools, we have a team of school counselors led by our gracious lead counselors. They're able to connect you not only to academic resources, but social emotional resources. They care about your whole development. They're your contact in the building. They can connect you to everyone else as well. And so school counselors are here to support you. And I'm gonna see if Dr. Dunn is able to have some audio to close us out with some more information about our great school counselors.
Sherry-Ann, can you hear me?
We cannot. I do apologize. And so what we're going to be able to do, Dr. Dunn, is at the end, we have our resources for our school counselors, our school social workers, our school psychologists, as well as our behavior interventionists. That last slide will, if you hold your camera up, you'll be able to connect. And so I'm sorry for the audio issues, but what we're going to do, Mrs. Cooper, is advance and be able to show how all of us work together to get you into groups. Just one slide back. Thank you. How all of us work together. And if you scan this barcode, hold your phone up. These are after-school groups that talk about everything that you shared with us today. What does mindfulness mean? How am I well? How can I take these strategies to focus, to be a better me, to reduce my stress, to talk real life about what's going on at home with my parents? That group is led by our school social worker, a behavior interventionist, as well as myself. We have Feel Your Freeze, talking us about your feelings, freeing yourself from anxiety, from stress, from the real things that occur in your life every day. And that's being led by one of your lead school counselors in your building, as well as behavior interventionists and a school counselor that works specifically with behavior leads that group for you as well. How do I study? Studying is important because that academic stress gets to you. It's one of the primary sources of why we hear I need help. So learning how to study, getting your memory stronger, being more organized, getting more successful. How do I get my mind to a place where I can focus? That is being led by our school psychologists. We're able to talk to you about real life skills. But how do I flourish? How do I live? How do I just thrive with all the stress that's going on with social media? How do I talk to you if I can't talk to my parents or my teachers? What if they don't believe in mental health and so I don't have access to therapy? Well, you'll learn how to flourish and thrive in your loss, in your thinking, in your grieving with one of our trained social workers as well as myself. So I want you to hold your phone up and scan this code. If you're not able to do that today, after the break, stop by your school counselor again, that important resource, and pick up a card. They'll have the QR code for you as well. I just want to thank you for coming today and caring about yourself enough to stay logged on. I'm going to bring up our Deputy Superintendent of Student Support Services next. But what I want to do is just close out by saying, last but not least, safety and security care about you as well. Bullying, the incidences that you talked about today, being able to report that, please look here at the screen. We have an email address as well as a tip line, and it's anonymous. You can tell us what's going on, and we're going to be able to follow up and support you in that way. So everybody has connected here to show you the resources and support. We charge you with using them. Dr. Nunez?
Thank you, Sherry Ann. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the panel, Auntie Shanti, Dr. Vaughn, Ms. Reyes, for the valuable information they shared with nearly 2,000 of our students. Scholars, these closing remarks are for you. From my heart to your heart, because you matter so much to all of us. And this activity today is just one of other activities that will follow to listen to your voices. I want to thank you for logging on today and wanting to learn more about how to take care of yourselves. I hope you have learned the signs to look for in life and that and to look for in your friends when you need help and when they need help. I myself learned a lot of things from our speakers. I learned a new way of rap, recognizing those unfamiliar signs, accepting and acknowledging those feelings and processing those feelings. I also heard how important it is to sleep well and eat well and breathe well. And that's what we need to do. But most importantly, I heard you. And hopefully we captured and responded to most of your questions. Your questions were excellent and very insightful and very thoughtful. So please know that we care. I hope that you feel empowered today to ask and use your supports that the district provides for you. Your teachers, your school administrators, alongside with your counselors and social workers, psychologists, and behavior intervention specialists. We hope that you feel supported and that a community came today to surround you and to show you how much we care. Join your Spark teams and your wellness model, I want you to know that they are ready to provide support. I want you to show daily gratitude for life, knowing that you matter to all of us and you matter to me. Take on the challenge of knowing who to contact and knowing that you have support. Be the one to ask for help. Be the one to say something to a friend. Be the one to show support to others as well. Be consistent in taking care of your health. Love yourself. Love yourself is important. Share your feelings. We need you here to build and shape our future. Listen to this. We need you here to build and shape our tomorrow. We are here to surround you today as a circle of support. We are your district leaders. We are your teachers. We are your school leaders. We are your support team and your community. We need you. And thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Thank you so much. We now have your participation code that's up. We want you to get your participation for being here today. Thank you so much. We're going to also go back to that slide that shows you after participation. We want to go back to that slide that shows you how you can send us tips and how you can get access to us. We'll leave those things up. So stay for as long as you need to. First, scan participation. We'll leave that up for 1 minute. We're going to put the resource slide up next. We'll go back to participation and leave the resource slide up for the remainder of the event. If you have something you need to say and you need to speak to someone, I want you to know that we're here for you today and throughout the break. If you need to contact your school counselor, school social worker, school psychologist, or behavior interventionist, we will put that information up on the slide following the participation. If you've put something in the chat today that you need follow-up, we're going to do that. You'll be contacted by one of us. We've captured every chat message, and one of us will contact you if there needs to be follow-up. You can use your school email address and send an email to that email address that we've put up. You can call the 1-800 number that's posted in your tip line. You can use your app. And you can also simply just reach out. Again, your school administration will connect you right to us. Any adult that you trust in that building is going to be able to connect to any of the people we've talked about today. All right, so let's go ahead and make sure that we utilize our resources. We'll close with the participation and make sure that we see you in one of these groups after school. If a group is too much for you, contact us and we'll work with you individually. Thank you again. Have a great day, everyone. Please look in your chats and you'll have the links that I've talked about to be able to ask for help. Please look in your chats and you'll get the website link. Following that website link will allow you to ask for help, both after this event, during your break. Thank you.
Sherry Ann, can they see their chats?
Let's see. Let me check really quick, Dr. Beasley. If not, we'll display it.